I, Lin Xiaoxiao, a 996 social animal, worked overtime in the company until the early morning yesterday. When I woke up, I found that I was wearing an ancient novel called The Domineering Prince Sen Sayabaiwa. She is not the heroine, nor is she a kind passerby, but the vicious female supporting role who is too obsessed with the downspot to be no longer despised. Yes, the names are the same as mine, and it is simply a bad luck that I decided to be. What's even more unlucky is that I was standing in a golden banquet hall, surrounded by precious tribes wearing ancient Chinese clothes, and I was wearing a red skirt that was so angry that I was wearing a golden hairpin, like a thunderous client. According to the plot in the book, this banquet is the opening scene where the original owner Lin Xiao was finally abandoned by the male protagonist Tingchen. Next, I will be ridiculed by everyone because I am jealous of the heroine Su Wanyol. Then I will be kicked out by Gu Tingchen, and I will be laughed at as a laughing stock. No. I finally wear books. How can I make myself game as soon as I open the game? I am a reader who has read the whole book. I am very familiar with the plot. I have to turn the board on this situation. I lowered my head and glanced at the wine glass in my hand, and my brain moved quickly. I wrote in the book that the original owner deliberately poured the wine on Su Wan at this banquet, and then dressed it innocently. As a result, Su Wan played a backhand role in a Chao Hua scene, which directly made Guard Tingchen feel very bad about us. But I am Lin Xiaoxiao himself now, so I can't follow the script. Xiaoxiao sister, what's wrong with you? You don't look so excited. A soft and weak voice came. Su Wani was wearing a white dress and walking over with small steps, her eyes full of hypocritical concern. I almost laughed out loud. The smell of green tea can be heard 10 meters away. She was deliberately trying to make trouble, wanting me to be deceived, right? I remember writing in the book that Su Wanya had known for a long time that the original owner liked Tingchen, so he used this fake kindness to stimulate me and let me jump into the pit by myself. It's okay, Sister Warner, I'm just a little hot. I'm holding a weird burning hand in this glass of wine in my hand. I smiled sweetly, deliberately bit the two words, burning hand, hard, and glanced at Gu Tingchen who was not far away. He was wearing a black robe and stood among the crowd, his air was as cold as a mobile refrigerator. The book says that he is a young man from a noble family, with a vast power and a great deal of both humans and gods. Unfortunately, his personality is unstable and no one dares to mess with him. My heart skipped a beat. This is a big boss and I must not offend him, but I also know that if I don't attract his attention today, I will be finished. Su Wan heard me say this, her face changed slightly, but soon she put on a harmless look. If my sister thinks she is burning her hands, why don't I help you hold it? No, I'll come by myself. I laughed even more frivolously, and suddenly my pretended to slip, and I fell to the table next to me, and the wine glass in my hand fell to the ground, breaking into pieces. The whole audience calmed down in an instant, and all their eyes were focused on me. I could feel the pride that Su Wanya couldn't hide in her eyes. I guess she thought I was asking for trouble and was about to be optimistic. Oh, I missed it. I pretended to be shocked and patted my chest, then turned to look at Su Warner, with a little annoyance in my language. Sister Warner, I almost hit you, I'm scared to death. Are you okay? Su Wan was stunned, obviously not expecting that I would directly pull the topic on her. She kept holding her hands, her voice still was so weak. It's okay, I don't have to take it to my heart. No, I have to take a good look. I stepped forward, grabbed her wrist directly, checked it out in a mold, and muttered in my mouth, Sister, you are so weak. If I really hit you, how can I explain to the prince? As soon as this came out, everyone around was gasping for breath. Who doesn't know that Lin Xiao likes Tingchen, but when everyone touched this matter on Su Wan's head, it was still the first time. Su Wan's face turned pale in an instant. She wanted to take her hand back, but I grabbed it tightly and didn't give her any chance. Xiao sister, you misunderstood. Between me and the prince. She hurriedly wanted to explain, but before I finished speaking, I stopped her. Oh, sister, don't be nervous. I know you and the prince are innocent, I said with a smile, and then deliberately raised my voice to ensure that everyone on the scene could hear it clearly. After that I just saw that my sister, you posted that the prince stood up for a long time. It should be just a coincidence, right? This move is absolutely true. I wrote in the book that in order to gain Tingchen's favor, Su Wan specially wore the most elegant white dress today, and deliberately swayed around him, hoping to create the illusion of accidental encounter. But she didn't dare to seduce herself openly, so she could only sneak up. When I say this, it is equivalent to when everyone tearing her off, making her jump into the yellow river and unable to wash it. Sure enough, Su Wanner's face suddenly became extremely ugly, her lips were even trembling. Xiaoxiao sister, what do you mean by this? I just accidentally passed by. Oh. Passing by. I raised my eyebrow, my tone full of playfulness, then sister, how did the handkerchief in your hand fall at the feet of the prince? I just saw it, and I thought you deliberately wanted the prince to pick it up. Pfft, I don't know who couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Immediately after, the whispering voices in the banquet hall grew louder, and everyone's looks at Su Wanner became increasingly intriguing. Su Wanner was completely panicked now, her eyes even red, putting on a wronged appearance. Xiaoxiao sister, how can you say that? I never thought of these things. Ah, sister, don't cry, I was just saying it casually. I pretended to comfort her, but in my heart, I was blooming with joy. This move was awesome. Directly exposing her green tea persona completely, who could still not see her little schemes. At that moment, a low and deep voice suddenly rang out, with an undeniable authority, enough. My heart skipped a beat, I turned my head to look, and Gu Tingchen didn't know when he had walked over, his face cold enough to freeze someone to death. His gaze swept over Su Wanner and then fell on me, with a bit of scrutiny. Prince. Su Wanner saw him and immediately rushed over, tearfully trying to explain, but Gu Tingchen ignored her completely, directly stepping over her to stand in front of me. What you just said, is it true? His voice was as low and deep as a cello, making my heart tingle. I forced myself to stay calm, smiling and nodding. Of course it's true, if the prince doesn't believe it, you can ask the people present, who didn't see Wanner's sister's handkerchief fall at your feet. Gu Tingchen didn't speak, but his gaze became even deeper, as if it could see through my heart. I felt a bit guilty inside, but on the surface, I still maintained a nonchalant smile. Joking aside, this is my key move to turn the tables, I absolutely can't show weakness. Prince, Xiaoxiao's sister must have misunderstood. Su Wanner was anxious and tried to defend herself, but Gu Tingchen just coldly glanced at her, then said to me, you, come over. What? Come over. I was stunned, but looking at his expression that brooked no refusal, I still obediently followed. In my heart, I was wildly complaining, this big shot won't want to embarrass me in public, right? The Gu Tingchen in the book isn't someone with a good temper. He led me to a corner of the banquet hall, away from the crowd, then stopped, turned around, and looked at me. Lin Xiaoxiao, you've really impressed me today. My heart jolted, but on the surface, I played dumb. What do you mean by that, Prince? I don't understand. He didn't bother with my act, his thin lips slightly pursed, his eyes carrying a bit of inquiry. Weren't you the one who hated Su Wanner the most before? How come today you're helping me expose her tricks? Helping him? This sounds a bit off. I blinked and tentatively asked, does the prince already see that Su Wanner is not simple? Gu Tingchen didn't answer directly, but the corners of his mouth hooked into a cold smile. Some people, their thoughts are written on their faces, they can't hide them even if they try. I felt happy inside, it seems this big shot is smarter than I imagined. Although in the book it says he doesn't like Su Wanner, it doesn't explicitly say he saw through her true nature early on. Now this means, he's actually been pretending all along? Prince is wise. I quickly flattered him, smiling like a flower, then what I just did, counts as helping the prince a little bit, right? He raised his eyebrow and didn't speak, but his eyes clearly showed a bit more interest. I breathed a sigh of relief in my heart, at least I didn't waste my effort. this first step was right. Lin Xiaoxiao, you've changed. He suddenly said this, his tone unclear whether good or bad. My heart skipped a beat, but on the surface, I smiled even sweeter. People have to grow up, right, Prince? He didn't respond, just looked at me deeply for a moment, then turned and left. Watching his back, I felt a strange sensation in my heart, like something gently tugged at it, indescribable. At that moment, my wrist suddenly felt warm. I looked down and saw that on my wrist, a faint red line had appeared out of nowhere, so thin it was almost invisible, extending straight in the direction Gu Tingchen had left. My mind buzzed, the faint red line mentioned in the book, could this be it? Isn't this thing supposed to only appear between true destined ones? Why is it connecting me and Gu Tingchen? Before I could think more, a commotion came from afar. Su Weiner seemed to be crying and complaining in the crowd again, her eyes occasionally glancing over here, full of resentment. I sneered, the green tea still wants to cause trouble. Fine, I'll play with you. This banquet has just begun, my road to counterattack is still long. The lights in the banquet hall are still bright, and the air is filled with a faint scent of osmanthus, but my heart feels like it's carrying a small drum, thumping straight. Just now, Gu Tingchen's words, you've changed, are still echoing in my mind, and the faintly visible red line on my wrist is making me a bit confused. Is this thing really the red string of fate? But the book clearly says that Gu Tingchen and Su Weiner are the destined pair. Could it be that by transmigrating into the book, I've accidentally messed up the plot? While I was lost in wild thoughts, a low sobbing sound suddenly came from afar. I looked up and saw Su Weiner standing in the middle of a group of noble young ladies, her eyes red, holding a handkerchief, tearfully complaining about something. Although I couldn't hear the exact content, her eyes kept glancing over to me with full resentment, and I immediately understood that this green tea asterisk was slandering me again. Humph, want to play? Then I'll accompany you. I sneered, straightened my skirt, picked up the fruit wine from the nearby table, and pretended to be casual as I walked toward her. The book wrote that Su Weiner is best at making small moves behind the scenes while appearing innocent and pitiful on the surface. Today's banquet is my key to turning the tables, and I absolutely can't let her ruin my affairs again. When I got near her, I indeed heard her complaining to the several young ladies beside her, Sister Xiaoxiao doesn't know what's wrong, she's been targeting me today. I really didn't do anything wrong. After hearing this, those young ladies all comforted her, and didn't forget to glance at me from the corner of their eyes, their gazes full of contempt. In my heart, I coldly snorted, this acting skill, even Oscar owes you a little golden man. But on the surface, I still smiled sweetly, directly inserting myself into their circle, and said, Sister Weiner, what are you talking about? Why do you look like you're about to cry? Who bullied you? Su Weiner was stunned, clearly not expecting me to come over on my own. She bit her lip, her voice becoming even softer. No, nothing, Sister Xiaoxiao, I'm just a bit unwell. Oh. Unwell? I raised my eyebrow, deliberately raising my voice, then just now I heard Sister say that I'm targeting you, is it because you're unwell and heard wrong? Or does Sister actually blame me? As soon as these words came out, the faces of the surrounding young ladies changed, and Su Weiner turned even paler, stammering an explanation, I didn't mean that, Sister, you misunderstood. Misunderstanding? That won't do. I smiled, squinted and approached her, my voice turning a bit colder. If Sister really thinks I'm targeting you, then just say it clearly in front of everyone, to avoid gossiping behind my back and making people think that Lin Xiaoxiao is easy to bully. These words were straightforward enough, and the people around instantly quieted down, even their breathing became lighter. Su Weiner was completely panicked now, tears almost falling, but she didn't dare say another word. In my heart, I felt secretly pleased, this is called fighting poison with poison. She likes to act pitiful, right? Then I'll tear off her mask and leave her no chance to act. Sister Xiaoxiao, I really didn't. She still wanted to explain, but I didn't give her the opportunity at all, turning around and leaving behind, Sister, take a good rest, don't get really sick and trouble others to take care of you. After this wave of operations, the eyes of the people around watching the excitement changed, from the earlier contempt to curiosity, and even some people whispered, "How come this Lin Xiaoxiao today is like a different person? Wasn't she always jumping at the sight of Miss Su before?" I pretended not to hear, but in my heart, I was blooming with joy. Jumping? That's something the original owner did. I'm a modern person with brains, dealing with green tea like this is simply a piece of cake. However, after walking just a few steps, I felt a strong gaze shooting from behind. I turned my head and saw Gu Tingchen standing not far away, staring at me with deep eyes, as if he could see right through me. My heart skipped a beat. This big shot isn't going to trouble me again, right? But on the surface, I still mustered my courage and squeezed out a smile toward him. "Your Highness, what is this? Do you have something?" He didn't answer directly, just walked toward me, each step carrying an inexplicable sense of pressure. When he reached me, "This thing is really evil," I muttered in a low voice, and my heart began to count. As the book says, the red line of fate is a symbol of true love, but it also brings a lot of misfortunes and twists and turns. Since this line connects Gu Tingchen and me, it means that I have a chance to change the plot. Hold this thigh tightly, and I might be able to succeed in reverse. But at the moment, Su Wan's side has not stopped, so I have to cut off her small movements first, otherwise there will be no harm in the future. Just as he was thinking, a noise suddenly came from afar. Several maids hurried over and said a few sentences to Su Wan's ear. Her face became difficult to see in an instant, and she flashed a fierce look in her eyes, then she glared at me and turned away from the banquet hall. "Yeah, what's wrong?" I raised my eyebrows and guessed a few points in my heart. As mentioned in the book, Su Wanyi, in addition to her ability to green tea, also specially helped the sect, which is probably going to send reinforcements. "Okay, want to play with me? Then let's see who has played." In the next few days, I was not idle, and I was wearing low-key in the mansion, and secretly heard Su Wan's silence. As expected, she didn't say anything bad about me behind her back, and even spread rumors, saying that I deliberately humiliated her at the banquet that day, and even Tingchen was confused by me. When I heard this, I was almost laughing, confused. Is this good for IQ crushing? However, the words are just words. No matter how harmful it is, it must be true to be hurt. In order not to let myself be moved, I decided to take the initiative to make a good impression on Gu Tingchen, so I would cheat Su Wan again. This day, I heard that guard Tingchen was going to patrol the yard outside the city, so I prepared everything early and pretended to meet him by chance. I deliberately changed into a simple blue long dress, only a plain hairpin on my head, and I felt like a pure white flower. As mentioned in the book, Gu Tingchen is the most accustomed to his dislike, so my outfit will definitely catch his eye. When I arrived outside the city, I deliberately waited on the road, pretending to sprain my foot accidentally, and squatted on the ground and put it on the floor to get so tired. When I saw Gu Tingchen's horse coming from afar, I felt happy, stood down and shouted weakly, "Come on. Is anyone helping me?" The horse stopped, the car opened, and the cold face of Gu Tingchen appeared in front of me. He glanced at me, his eyebrows slightly browed. "Lin Xiao. Why are you here?" I put on a look of surprise and helplessness, and my eyes were red. "Criminal. It's me. I originally wanted to pick some wild flowers, but I accidentally sprained my feet and couldn't walk anymore." He didn't say anything, his eyes swept over my ankles, and then he said coldly, "Go on the car." "What?" "Get on the car." I was stunned, but Lima reacted and kept saying, "Thank you, Prince." After getting on the horse, I deliberately sat away from him, lowered his head and put on a cautious look. Gu Tingchen suddenly opened his mouth. "Lin Xiaoxiao, you are so spraining like this." My heart thumped and I looked stupid. What does the prince mean? I was so careless. He didn't answer, but just looked at me coldly, his eyes full of exploration. I felt a little nervous in my heart, but I still kept smiling. "Just kidding, this is my carefully designed, hero-saving beauty. If he sees the clue, it will be useless." As he was stiff, the horse suddenly shook violently, and then there was a rapid sound of horse hoofs and shouts coming from outside. I was stunned. What was going on? Gu Tingchen's face turned cold in an instant and said to the guard outside in a low voice, "Go and check." The guards left, but before a while, the sound of swords colliding outside the horse was heard, and it was obvious that he had encountered an ambush. I felt nervous. I had never written this story. Could it be that Su Wan was the one who did it? Lin Xiao, sit down. Gu Tingchen's voice was low, and there was a bit of anger in his eyes. He pulled out a long sword from the car and directly lifted it out. I looked at his back and felt a little panicked. Whenever he had an accident, my plan was completely poured into soup. The fight outside became more and more intense, and I gritted my teeth and decided to go and take a look. Just after I opened the car, I saw several men in black coming straight in a horse, obviously wanting to attack me. I was shocked and shouted, "Criminal! Help!" When Gu Tingchen heard my voice, he suddenly turned his head, and almost instantly rushed to me. A man in black fell down, and blood poured on me. I was so scared that my legs were soft, but he held me behind me and said in a low voice, "Don't be upset." Although the language was cold, it made my heart warm inexplicably. I looked at his wide back, and the red wire on my wrist suddenly felt hot, as if reminding me something. At this moment, a man in black came from the side. I quickly looked and held up the dagger on the ground and stabbed him. Although he didn't hit the vital point, he also ate a big shot. Gu Tingchen looked back at me, and there was a little more distortion in his eyes. "You criminal, I don't want to drag my back." I gasped and said hard, and actually shook my hands. He didn't say anything, but the corners of his mouth seemed to be hooked, and then he continued to solve the remaining assassin. After finally repelling the enemy, I was already exhausted and sweating profusely, but looking at the blood stained by Gu Tingchen, I felt indescribable in my heart. He turned around and looked at me with a complex look. "Lin Xiaoxiao, you surprised me again today." I smiled with a hint. "The prince has won the prize, I just don't want to die." He didn't answer, but just lowered his head and checked my ankle, and found that it was clear. His eyebrows were slightly anaconda. "Go back and let the doctor take a look." How could I listen to this kind of atmosphere? I felt a little moved in my heart, but I didn't have time to think about it. There was a sudden sound of horse hooves coming from afar. A group of people rushed over here, and Su Wanled was the leader. She jumped off the horse in shock and rushed towards Tingchen. "Criminal, are you okay? I heard that you met a widow and took someone to come." Gu Tingchen avoided her hand coldly, and said coldly, "Miss Su news is spiritual." Su Wan was stunned, her face became difficult to see in an instant. I watched this scene and sneered in my heart, spiritual power. I'm afraid this assassin was arranged by her. However, now it's not the time to expose her, I have to wait a little longer. "Criminal, my sister was injured soon. Why don't I take her back first?" Su Wanner wanted to say something, but Gu Tingchen directly quit. "No, she will come with me." As soon as this happened, Su Wan's face turned dark, and my heart was as sweet as if I had eaten honey. It seems that although the hero saves the beauty in this scene was a bit unexpected, the effect is quite good. The car started again. I glanced at Tingchen and found that he was closing his eyes and calming his face. His face was still cold, but there seemed to be a very fine red line on his wrist. If it was hidden, it would be connected with mine. The car was moving forward slowly, and the atmosphere inside the car made me feel a little restless. Gu Tingchen closed his eyes, as if he was really numbing his mind, but I always felt that there was a strange feeling hidden under his calm appearance. The sudden stabbing just happened, the unquestionable posture he protected me, and the increasingly obvious red line on my wrist, all of this made my brain a group. I lowered my head and glanced at my wrist. The red line was still warm, as if I was alive, pointing in the direction of Gu Tingchen. I couldn't help but complain, "What is this thing? The symbol of true love? But there is nothing to do between me and this iceberg boss." What I wrote in the book was that he and Su Wan were definitely in the same way, but why did they connect to me now? Lin Xiaoxiao. His voice suddenly sounded, and I almost jumped up. Ah. What's wrong with the prince? I quickly looked like a well-behaved look, my heart was full of fear that he would see my little thoughts again. He opened his eyes quietly, his eyes falling deep on me, his spirit as cold as winter ice. Are you so many assassins? Do you have any brilliance? I was stunned and my brain moved quickly. Headblade? To be honest, the first person I doubted was Su Wan. This woman has a very deep mind. In order to get rid of her rivals, she has not done such a secret matter of taking secrets. But I have no evidence now, and I just say that it will only make the Inspector Tingchen think I am a trickster. Criminal, I am a small household, how could I know these? I put on an innocent look and blinked, but it was quite a coincidence that Miss Su Wan came just now. Don't the prince think it's strange? His eyebrows were slightly raised, and there was a flash of excitement in his eyes. He didn't answer me, but just said lightly, you will throw your head. My heart skipped a beat, and my smile even sweeter, the prince wronged me. I just said it, after all, I have to rely on you to protect my life. He didn't say anything else, just snorted coldly and closed his eyes. I relaxed my voice and started to count. It seems that Gu Tingchen is not completely unsuspecting Su Wanyi, but he is too cunning, so I have to find a chance to pull out her fox tail, otherwise there will be more trouble in the future. When he returned to the mansion, Gu Tingchen directly asked someone to call the doctor to show me the injury. I sat in the hall, pretending to cooperate well, but actually my ears were already rising and I heard the silence outside. Sure enough, it took not long before Su Wanner's voice came from the yard, so soft that it dripped out of water. Criminal, I'm really worried about my sister, come and see her. I sneered in my heart, this green tea is really absent. Gu Tingchen's voice immediately rose, and it was so cold that it was not too cold. She is fine, Miss Su doesn't have to worry. Criminal, but I heard that my sister was so tired that Su Wanner wanted to say something, but Tingchen clearly felt impatient and quit. I said, no need. This is a simple and sympathetic person. I secretly glanced out the window. Su Wan's face was as white as a ghost, her lips were bitten with blood, and her eyes were full of resentment. Humph, want to find out my bottom? No door. However, this woman was obviously unwilling to give up. In the next few days, she began to change her book and spread rumors in the mansion, saying that I deliberately designed Tingchen that day, pretending to be injured and sympathized with the assassins, and even hinted that I had something to do with the assassins. These words were transmitted to my ears, and I was so angry that I didn't just rush over and tear her up, but when I thought about it, I would just let myself lose my price now. It would be better to watch it and dig a bigger hole for her. Sure enough, she finally couldn't hold it in a few days. That night, I was calculating the next plan in my room, and suddenly there was a rush to knock outside the door. The maid Xiao Chui ran in panic and said in a low voice, Miss, it's not good. Miss Su brought a few people, saying that she had caught the rope to assassinate the prince, and she insisted on you to get the right one. I raised my eyebrows, sneered in my heart, here I come. This woman finally couldn't help but use her big move. I pretended to be surprised and said, okay, I'll go and see, I can't let anyone wrong me for nothing. When he arrived at the front hall, Su Wan was already waiting there, with a kind smile on his face, and there were several strange men standing beside him, looking like servants in the mansion. When she saw me, Lima said softly, Xiaoxiao sister is for your own good. Some people say that the assassination of the prince that day had something to do with you. I don't believe it, but I must find out clearly so that you won't be wronged. I rolled my eyes in my heart. This acting is really great. He looked aggrieved, sister said it right, but I really don't know what's going on. At this time, Gu Tingchen walked out from behind the wind, his face as cold as ice, his eyes swept over everyone on the scene, and finally fell on me. Say, what's going on? Su Wan Lima answered, and her voice was crying, criminal, these people said that they saw Xiao Zhao's sister meeting a suspicious person outside the city that day, as if it was discussing something. Moreover, she was so coincidental that day, she was obviously deliberately designed to let the prince save her. As soon as this happened, the atmosphere in the hall became cold in an instant. I could feel that Gu Tingchen's gaze became more sharp, as if it could pierce my heart. I felt nervous, but I remained calm on my face and looked at Su Wan with a smile. Sister, you are so interesting. I am a weak woman, how can I catch up with the assassin? Besides, if the prince hadn't saved me that day, I would have been out of my life long ago. Could it be that I would have harmed myself? Su Wan was stunned, obviously not expecting that I would have such a counterattack. She bit her lip and turned to look at the servants. Do you think you really see her joining people? The servants clearly had been bought and were busy. One of them said with a big fuss, yes, we saw it really, and the lady did say a few words to a man in black that day. Sneaky. I sneered and turned to look at Gu Tingchen. Criminal, you heard it. This is the same as it is. But I was waiting on the road from the beginning to the end that day, and I didn't even see a ghost. Where did the man in black come from? Besides, if I really had a problem, why did you help your assassin at that time? Gu Tingchen didn't say anything, his eyes became deeper and deeper, as if he could see through everything. I felt a little nervous in my heart, but I still felt hard and didn't show my timidity. Su Wan saw this and put on a knife. Xiaoxiao sister, don't rush to explain. My sister is also for the good of the prince. If someone really says she doesn't have any pictures, we can't let it go. This is a high-sounding sentence, but I only feel disgusted when I hear it. I snorted coldly and directly responded, Sister said it right, you can't let it go. Then why don't you check who these servants bought it? Why is it so coincidental that I saw me joining someone? Isn't it someone who deliberately made it? Su Wan's face changed, and she obviously didn't expect that I would point the spear directly at her. She hurriedly said, Sister, you can't say anything wrong, why would I do this? Is it a slightest thing? You can tell after checking it. I smiled sweetly, staring at her with my eyes tightly. The prince is wise, I believe that the truth will be found, right? Gu Tingchen finally opened his mouth, his voice was so low that it made people feel cold. Come on, take these servants down and ask more. Su Wan's face turned pale in an instant when she heard this, and she hurriedly wanted to stop it. Criminal, these people just said the truth, there is no need. Miss Su. Gu Tingchen slammed her coldly, you are so nervous, can you have anything to do with this matter? As soon as this happened, Su Wan was so anxious that she broke out in cold sweat. I felt a little relieved. This iceberg boss is indeed not a vegetarian. Su Wan's kick is now on the iron plate. The results of the review came out quickly. The servants did take Su Wanya's silver and come to trap me. After the truth was revealed, Gu Tingchen's face was as cold as if he was going to kill someone. He looked at Su Waner, and his language was full of threat. Miss Su, what do you say? Su Wankang knelt down with a sound, her eyes fell down. Criminal, I was also cheated. I really don't know that they will talk nonsense. I just worry about your safety. It's too late. Gu Tingchen clearly didn't believe her ghost and said coldly, since Miss Su is so concerned about this prince, why not go back and think about how to explain it to me? This was so cruel that Su Wan was fucked and hurriedly knelt on her head and begged for her, but Gu Tingchen ignored her and directly slapped her hands to let someone take her down. I felt so refreshed when I watched this scene. Su Wanye really fell this time, and it was not that easy to turn over. However, the matter is not finished yet. Although Su Wan was temporarily suppressed, she still had a backer behind her. I wrote in the book that her family has a bad relationship with several big families, so this time I will definitely not let it go. I have to take this opportunity to uproot her efforts in the end, otherwise there will be no harm in the future. Criminal, thank you for your innocence. I lowered my head and put on a look of gratitude, thinking about how to borrow his fortune. He glanced at me, his temper was still cold. Lin Xiao, you better not cause trouble again. I was busy and smiled. Well, don't worry, Prince, I must be true. He didn't say anything else and turned away, but I noticed that the red wire on his wrist seemed to be lit up a little again, and he was connected with mine. My heart thumped. Could I think this big guy is really a little different to me? In the next few days, I didn't care about it. I secretly collected Su Wan's handle and pretended to be low-key so as not to attract attention. As expected, it was not long before I heard Su Wan's father came to the door and pleaded with Gu Tingchen, saying that she was just young and ignorant, and asked her to let her go. I sneered in my heart. I was young and ignorant. This woman's heart is so deep that she can drown people, so where can she know nothing? However, although Gu Tingchen is cold, he is not completely unkind. In the end, he only let Su Wan stay for 3 months, which is a gift to her family. But I know that this matter is never finished. People like Su Wan will not be easily recognized. She will definitely be back. As expected, I received a message that she had secretly contacted several families and was ready to deal with Gu Tingchen and me. Yeah, I'm really not afraid of death. I sneered and decided to take the initiative to attack and not be beaten again. That night, I secretly entered the book room of Tingchen, and gave out the full list of the found news. Of course, I also added a little artistic processing to make Su Wan's sarcasm sound even more evil. After hearing this, Gu Tingchen's face was so cold that it could make the ice, and his eyes were full of resentment. Lin Xiao, are you sure these are true? Criminal, I will protect my life. I patted my chest and swore, Su Wanya is so heartbroken this time that she wants to kill us. We can't sit there and wait. He was silent for a moment, and finally pointed, okay, I want to see what kind of beauty she can play. When I came out of the book room, my voice relaxed. Now that I can see that Gu Tingchen finally stood here, Su Wan's good days are over. However, what I didn't expect was that this night, the distance between me and him seemed to be a little closer. The light in the book room was swaying, and the look he looked at me was a little more unclear. Lin Xiaoxiao, why do you want to help me? He suddenly asked, his voice as low as if he was murmuring in his ears. I was stunned, my heartbeat accelerated inexplicably, and I smiled hard. I have to repay you if the prince saved me. He didn't say anything, but just looked at me deeply, and the red wire on his wrist suddenly became dazzling, as if it was burning. I felt panic in my heart and hurriedly lowered my head to cover my eyes, but my ears were so red that they were burning. This night, I was sleeping hard, and my brain was full of Gu Tingchen's deep and invisible eyes. Early the next morning, I was not overwhelmed and heard the rapid pace from outside. Xiao Chui ran in panic, Miss, it's not good. Miss Su brought a group of people and said she wanted to be fair with the prince. She is now in the front yard. I raised my eyebrows, Justice. This woman is really brave. It seems that today's scene has to start again. The front yard was as hot as a vegetable market. Su Wan stood there with a group of people, with a look of grievance on her face. Her voice was as weak as if she could pass by at any time. Prince, I know I did something wrong last time, but my father had already punished me. Today I just wanted to ask for justice. Xiao Zhao's sister has been telling me, and I can't stand it anymore. I stood on the edge of the yard, watching this scene, and sneered in my heart. Justice? She is so embarrassed to say it. This woman obviously wanted to take advantage of her confinement and make a last try and try to flip the picture. What a pity that she has chosen the wrong opponent. Today, I have to let her not come to the stage. Gu Tingchen walked out of the hall, his face as cold as ice. His eyes swept past Su Wan's words without any temperature. Miss Su, what is the justice you said? Su Wan was stunned and hurriedly looked like a more depressing look, her eyes almost falling off. Criminal, I just want to ask Xiao Xiao's sister, why do I always misunderstand me, and even spread my words behind my back, saying that my heart is deep? I really haven't done those things. I almost laughed out loud. This ability to bite back is really pure. But I still put on an innocent look on my face and walked slowly over, with some helplessness in my voice. Sister Wan, you really hurt me. When did I spread my words? Besides, the prince has already found out about the last assassin. Why can I blame me? Su Wan's face changed, and she obviously didn't expect that I would mention the assassin directly. She bit her lip and her voice became lower. Sister, I didn't mean that, I just heard someone say that you have a bias towards me, and I want to ask clearly. Quick it. Okay. I smiled sweetly, my eyes as cold as a knife. That's better to say something, sister, who did you hear? How do I remember that the person who spread the words recently looked quite like the maids beside my sister? As soon as this happened, several maids behind Su Wan's body instantly lowered their heads and their faces changed. I felt secretly happy. I had already found out that these maids were Su Wan's confidant long ago. I specially helped her to communicate. Now that the crowd is broken, let's see how she is. Xiaoxiao sister, what do you mean? Su Wan smiled reluctantly, and panic could not be hidden in her voice. How could the people around me do this? Did you do it? Just check it out. I raised my eyebrows and turned to look at Gu Tingchen. Criminal, do you think so? After all, what happened last time has proved that some people don't have a truth in their mouths, so we can't be cheated anymore. Gu Tingchen's eyes fell on me, as if he could see through my heart, but he didn't say anything, just pointed his head slightly, and then said to the person in a cold voice, take the people around Miss Su and ask carefully. Su Wan was panicked at this moment and hurriedly stopped him. Criminal, isn't this necessary? They are just servants, how can they know anything? Since Miss Su said this, I have to find out more clearly. Gu Tingchen was cold and had a chance to not give her a backlash. If it was really a mistake, I will clear your innocence. This sounds fair, but Su Wan's face is as white as paper, and cold sweats are coming out of her head. I looked at her appearance and felt so straightforward. Check. If you check it, she will be finished. No matter how hard the maids are, they can't withstand Gu Tingchen's methods. It won't take long to take anything. Sure enough, after a while, the servant came back to the report and said that the maids had been called by Su Wan, all of which were Su Wan instructing them to spread their words, and even pulled out her secretly contacted several families to prepare for the plan to deal with me and Gu Tingchen. These things were on the surface, and Su Wan could no longer hold them. She knelt down with a sound, and her eyes fell down. Criminal, I'm wrong. I just couldn't be angry, and I've been confused for a while. Please give me this time. I looked at her coldly, and there was no sympathy in my heart. A moment of slushing. This woman is calculating from head to end, where is she so confused? Gu Tingchen's face became even colder, and his eyes were full of evil. Miss Su, I have given you an opportunity, but you have repeatedly chosen it. Since that's the case, don't blame me for showing mercy. He swung his hand and went forward with several guards, and directly begged Su Wan. She was still clamoring for justice, but Gu Tingchen ignored it and turned to look at the group of people she brought with him. His language was full of power. If you dare to be a tiger again, the Su family will be the next stage. As soon as this happened, the people were scared to kneel down, showing their loyalty, saying that they were just blinded and dared not come back. I finally relaxed my voice when I watched this scene. Su Wanya was really finished this time, and the power behind her was also exterminated by Gu Tingchen, and she could no longer make a fuss. Lin Xiaoxiao. Gu Tingchen suddenly called me, his voice so low that my heart thumped. Ah! What's wrong with the prince? I quickly came back to my senses and looked well behaved, but I felt a little stupid in my heart, and I always thought that his eyes were strange. Come with this prince. He turned around and walked towards the inner courtyard without saying much. I was stunned for a moment, but I still kept following me with my head in my heart, and I couldn't guess what he wanted to fuck. When he arrived at a quiet garden in the inner courtyard, he stopped and turned to look at me, his eyes as deep as he could suck me in. I felt panic in my heart, and the red wire on my wrist suddenly felt hot, as if I was reminding me something. I lowered my head and took a sneak peek, and found that the red line on his wrist was also dazzlingly bright, tightly connected to mine. Prince, you, just say it straight, I can't be afraid of being so careful. I smiled reluctantly, trying to explain the strange atmosphere, but my heartbeat was getting faster and faster. He didn't say anything, but just raised his hand slowly, revealing the red line on his wrist, and his spirit was as low as the years. Lin Xiao, you should know what this is. My brain buzzed and said, it's over. He saw it too. I have never dared to mention this red line matter to him, for fear that he would think I was so treacherous. Now that he is trying to break it, how can I explain it? But when I think about it, it's better to hold a card if I can't hide it now. Criminal, this should be a red line of life. I opened my mouth with my head, my voice trembling a little. I heard that this thing connects the true emperor, but I don't know why it connects us. I finally wrote. In the book? He raised his eyebrows, and a flash of inquiry was found in his eyes. What is the book you are talking about? My heart skipped a beat. No, I said I missed it. I can't tell him, I came here in a book, right? Then he must not catch me as a monster. I hurriedly told the story. There is nothing. I just heard someone mention some of the rumors that the red line is a natural demarcation, and no one can break it. He didn't say anything, he just looked at me quietly, as if he could see through my responsibilities. I felt a fool in my heart, and on the surface I was still smiling hard. Criminal, don't think too much, maybe this line is just a styling, it's useless. Share. He sneered, and suddenly approached me, so close that I could hear the faint pine wood fragrance on his body. Lin Xiao, if I had it, why would I feel like I can't tell you? What? Feel? My heartbeat instantly hit my throat, and my face was as red as a cooked slut, hesitating and unable to speak. What does he mean? Could it be that he is really to me? What is that? There was a group in my brain, and I heard him whisper, you have changed. From the day of the banquet, I realized that you are not like the one in the past. I was stunned, and my heart was filled with scent. Yes, of course I am different. I wear it, but how do I tell him these? I bit my lip and tried to ask, criminal, are you, good or bad? He didn't answer directly, but his eyes softened a little, and his voice was low, it's so bad or not, you know in your heart. I heard this and felt a little numb in my heart, as if I was hit by something. I looked into his eyes, and the red line on my wrist was so hot that it seemed to be about to burn. Finally, I plucked up my courage and opened my mouth. Criminal, since this red line connects us, is that meant we have a bad relationship? He raised his eyebrows, and a slight smile seemed to be curled up at the corner of his mouth, but soon he returned to his coldness. Brother? Lin Xiao, you dare to think about it. I felt nervous and thought he wanted to refuse, but he continued, however, this prince never believes in fate. If this line is really a severity, it depends on whether you are worth it. What does this mean? Exam me? I blinked, and Lima smiled like a flower. Don't worry, Prince, Lin Xiao, is worth it. Look, I helped you solve Su Wan's problem, and found out that there are so many slandering and loyalty, who can compare to me? He didn't say anything, but there was a little more slight scent in his eyes. I took advantage of the heat to get the iron closer and the sound was soft. Prince, we are at least in a difficult situation. Can't you give us a chance to try this? The air calmed down in an instant, and I could hear my heartbeat, which was as pounding as a drum. Gu Tingchen looked at me, his eyes so complicated that I couldn't guess, but just when I thought he was going to refuse, he suddenly reached out, grabbed my wrist lightly, rubbed the red line with his fingertips, and said in a low voice, okay, I will give you this opportunity. My brain was blank in an instant. What? Agreed? Did he really agree? I stared at him blankly, and after a long time I reacted. My face was so red that I could drip blood. I kept saying, thank you. Thank you, Prince. He didn't say anything else, just relaxed his hand, turned around and looked deep in the garden, with a low voice. Although Su Wan's affairs are, the several aristocratic families behind her still need to be beaten. If you want to follow this prince, you will be able to do your best. I quickly replied, don't worry, Prince, I will do it. In the following days, Gu Tingchen and I started to fight against Su Wan's efforts. With his support, those aristocratic families were not opponents at all, and they were all so pressed that they could not lift their heads up shortly after. Su Wan was finally expelled from the circle of power and heard that she was sent back to her hometown, and even the capital did not dare to take another step. And the relationship between me and Tingchen is getting closer and closer. The red line's turn made us unable to help but get close to each other. Although his mouth was still cold, he could be on the ground to protect me. Once, I was accidentally stolen by an assassin from a noble family. He rushed over to protect me in the first time, and the worry in my eyes was brightly pressed, making my heart very warm. "Criminal, do you feel sorry for me?" I smiled and talked, but saw his ears slightly red, and snorted coldly, "Stop being self-indulgent. But that language is like a quarrel." I smiled even more happily and said in the last few words, Okay, I don't act too passionate, so you can continue to protect me, I can't leave you." He ignored me, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, which was fleeting. I looked at his face, the red line on my wrist was as warm as sunlight, and I suddenly understood in my heart that there was no wrong line. A few months later, the turbulence in the capital finally subsided, and my relationship with Gu Tingchen became natural. One night, he suddenly took out a jade pendant in the garden and gave it to me, with a low voice, "Lin Xiao, accept it, and you will be my prince's person from now on." I was stunned for a moment, looked down at the jade pendant, my brain full of stories from books. The original owner Lin Xiaoxiao's final retreat was a dead end, but now, not only did I live well, but I also became Gu Tingchen's sweetheart. This reversal is so cool. "Criminal, are you, proposal?" I took the jade pendant with a smile, my eyes as bright as stars. He didn't answer directly, but just hummed, "What do you think?" My heart was as sweet as if I had eaten honey, and I was busy. "Then I'm not polite, Prince, let's say that from now on, you have to be responsible for me to the end." He looked at me, his eyes as gentle as it could turn on the snow, and said in a low voice, "Okay." At that moment, I suddenly realized that it doesn't matter whether it's good to wear books or tossing backwards. What's important is that I found my true love, and this world has become my home. Later, I chose to stay and no longer think about returning to the real world. After all, there were only 996 hard days, and here there were Gu Tingchen and everything I wanted. We have not delved into the secret of the red line, because no matter what it is, we have firmly tied us together and can never be separated. Above the capital, the moonlight was like water. Gu Tingchen and I stood in the garden, the red lines on our wrists were shining, like the most beautiful blessing. And in my heart, there is only full of satisfaction and happiness.